Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be with you here this afternoon. I have two roles this year. It is indeed my privilege to be the current president of the Londonderry Chamber of Commerce, which represents the interests of about 400 businesses, from small startups to big FDI businesses like Allstate and Seagate. I also own and operate with my husband an airport transfer bus company called Airporter, and we transport about 160,000 passengers a year between Derry and the Belfast airports in my day job. I crossed the border a few hours ago. As you know, it's as if it doesn't exist. Many thousands of people do it every day. And that freedom of movement for people, products and services between jurisdictions has played a major role, of course, in the economic and social transformation of our region. It continues to do so with every passing week, and those of us who live and work here can't understand how anybody could think of jeopardising it. We are cross-jurisdictional, cross-regional and cross-border, but quite frankly, right now, we are just cross. We are cross, to put it mildly, at the current state of the Brexit negotiations. We're cross at having no executive in Northern Ireland to fight our case, and we're cross at the tribal standoffs by Northern Ireland's political leaders. And because I'm sharing a stage with a woman who I admire greatly, I will say some of Northern Ireland's political leaders. I moved here with my family 22 years ago in 1996 from Canada. So I have watched Northern Ireland move out of conflict and, with the framework and protection of the Good Friday Agreement, into peace and then prosperity. Northern Ireland and Derry is unrecognisable from the place it was then. The region has a confident and diverse business community, more people in work than at any other time, and a flourishing tourism product with world-class Gulf destinations, screen tourism, which Game of Thrones has largely put on the map, and a first-class range of food, drink and hospitality. 15 years ago, I was on a Tourism Ireland roadshow to North America, and the head of Visit Belfast then stood in a room full of American travel agents, and he said, "Put your hand up if you've heard of Belfast." And of course, every hand in the room went up. And he said, "Well, at least you've heard of us." And everybody laughed. But now you would never think of laughing at Belfast as a tourism destination. And Derry's visitor numbers have grown by double-figure percentages annually since 2013, when we became the first UK city of culture. That landmark year of events saw a transformation of Derry's sense of self. For the first time, we understood that Derry was a global destination, not just for people coming home to see their mammies, but for people from around the world to explore and enjoy and discover. Of course, tourism does more for Derry and the wider cross-border region than simply generate bed nights and visitor spend. Tourism helps to see ourselves through our visitors' eyes. It helps raise all our expectations of what we could and should be. Now, more than at any time in living memory, Derry aspires to prosper, and tourism growth plays a central role in funding our ambition. The 20-year journey to peace and prosperity for Northern Ireland has not always been easy, and not without detours, but it has been largely forward-moving and positive. That is, until the 23rd of June 2016, when the UK voted by a small majority to leave the European Union. In the Foyle constituency, where I live and work and employ staff and serve customers, we voted 78% to remain. In the Londonderry Chamber of Commerce, that figure was 86%. So I feel comfortable saying that where I come from, we did not feel well served by the democratic process, not then and not since. Brexit in itself, as it stands, will not be good for the UK economy, and it certainly won't be good for the Irish economy. But it has already been really destructive and traumatic for Northern Ireland. Not only have we suffered from the uncertainty over the implications of customs, tariffs, and the spectre of a border returning on the island, but Brexit has utterly destroyed political goodwill, leadership, and cooperation, which is a terrible casualty. Throughout the 20-year journey since the Good Friday Agreement, all sides generally agreed that we were moving forward for a better shared future and that we would only do well when we all did well. Brexit's biggest cost to us so far is that the aspiration for a better shared future has been trashed. It has been disrespected to the point that it has nearly been denied. That's a terrible betrayal to the many people in Northern Ireland who wished and worked for a peaceful future, even if that meant having to swallow their own loss and distrust. The breakdown of government in Stormont, now 500 days old, cannot be fixed until we know what Brexit means for Northern Ireland, and maybe not even then. I agree wholeheartedly with Claire that Sinn Féin and the DUP have moved down completely separate ideological paths towards two very different destinations, and they have largely taken their communities with them. They have left the SDLP, Alliance, the Greens and the Independents to try and speak for the ones in the middle, but with too little electoral representation to pull everyone back to that shared ground. The orange and green rhetoric and language that has become so tribal in the past 2 years has left me often open-mouthed in amazement. Government will not function when politicians show disdain for the people they live with and serve. Our two biggest political parties cannot find a way to secure the best for both worlds for Northern Ireland because they can both see an opportunity that Brexit offers to their ideal ideological home. Sinn Féin see it as a road directly to a united Ireland, and the DUP see it as a way to reaffirm the union, even if it means going over a so-called no-deal cliff edge. Of course, both of these respective visions sacrifice the wishes of approximately the other half of Northern Ireland. So we currently have no government in Northern Ireland and therefore no voice to articulate the unique circumstances, challenges and indeed opportunities that Brexit could hold for us. Brexit damaged the delicate language of the Good Friday Agreement that allowed us to be a little bit of everything, British, Irish and European. Turns out we weren't secure enough in our bicultural curiosity to defend it. Brexit scratched deeply at the idea of identity in Northern Ireland, and the scratches haven't yet healed. I was part of a group that had the pleasure of an audience with Michel Barnier when he visited Derry in May this year. It was a starkly realistic and practical conversation, but he kept saying, "But you voted to leave the EU." And we kept looking around the world, or looking around the room thinking, who voted? Who voted to leave the EU? Who on earth would vote to leave the EU? And it wasn't anybody in that room, not a single person in that room had voted to leave. And we weren't there because we were Remainers. We were invited because we represented businesses or local government or education or FDI employers or farmers. When I had a chance to speak, I explained that many of my staff, like Paul, who is a driver from St Johnson, and Pamela from Muff, who runs our entire operation, earn their wages in the UK, but they are Irish and EU citizens. Likewise, I gave evidence to the House of Lords Brexit Committee in January of this year, and I also tried to explain about Paul from St Johnson and Pamela from Muff, who, while they are Irish citizens and not citizens of the UK per se, they cross the border every day to contribute to the economy. Their example illustrates clearly why citizens in this cross-border region cannot be marked as belonging to one side or another. I realise this topic is about the relationship and the future between Ireland and the UK, but I'm afraid Northern Ireland is the tie that binds the two, whether we like it or not. And a solution for Northern Ireland is absolutely critical to any future relations between Ireland and the UK. First of all, we are all going to have to accept that we're not going to get everything we want. And it is our task between Ireland, Northern Ireland and the UK to start to articulate that. There is absolutely no version of Brexit, or government for that matter, where one side gets everything at once and the other side happily concedes. We have to stop letting our communities believe that that is a possibility. It will only cause them harm and will create great dissatisfaction and distrust going forward. Everyone in our political universe must cease using language that is triumphant and knowingly goading. We must return to a dialogue which is fit to tackle the enormous cooperation, collaboration, imagination, and goodwill that will be required to bring us to a point where we can discuss the future possibilities of government and leadership. Secondly, could I suggest that we take the words red lines and put them in the black bin? There are so many red lines in this Brexit conversation, it is like a toddler has taken a red biro to a wall. They are not helpful. Those words do not make you any more British or any more Irish. We need practical conversations now about the actual implications of Brexit for business, for trade, and for citizens. Honestly, in what world could no deal be a preferred option? How has it become acceptable to use words like crash out and cliff edge and then debate the pros and cons? There are no pros in going over a cliff edge. Thirdly, we need to find a way for a mature conversation about Irish leadership on a practical level. The backstop position will bring Northern Ireland closer to the rest of Ireland economically, and I think it would be helpful to start talking about what that might mean for businesses and citizens. Obviously, such a discussion is fragile and delicate and would have to recognise the particular position of the unionist population within Northern Ireland. And to be very clear, I am not advocating or indeed predicting a united Ireland, but I am suggesting that it would be helpful to start to understand the economic, judicial and financial framework that the backstop entails and where it might lead. My husband and I have been in business together for a long time, and we believe in the adage, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Indeed, the ones that actually nearly kill you are the ones that teach you the most. But what you learn about is actually about your own resilience and endurance. And despite my many frustrations with Brexit, I am confident in the ability to survive and rebuild and come out stronger. The status quo we enjoyed in the UK, Ireland and Northern Ireland before June 2016 is, I'm afraid, gone. But that doesn't mean that we can't build something else. We are an island, and not that big an island at that. I feel confident that eventually we can rebuild an economy that offers opportunities and growth, that offers a framework of government that is built around respect and equality and cooperation, and that we can build a society that is ready to work together to tackle global threats and indeed opportunities. But it's up to all of us to keep working together to get that right. Thank you.